Kia ora koutou, everybody. Today I can confirm that I have put my name forward to be the next leader of the New Zealand Labour Party and therefore the next Prime Minister of New Zealand. I can also confirm that as at the time nominations closed at 9 o'clock this morning, I was the only nominee for that role. I set out when Jacinda Ardern announced her resignation that I would play my role in working with the Labour team in Parliament to ensure that we strove to reach a consensus about who was best to lead Labour and therefore New Zealand forward. And I am absolutely humbled and honoured that in those conversations I have had incredibly strong support from my caucus colleagues, my Labour team, and that consensus has emerged and they have indicated that they will support me to be the party's next leader and therefore the next Prime Minister. There is still a bit to go in this process. There is still a meeting tomorrow and a vote, and I don't want to get too far ahead of that. I want to respect the fact that my colleagues deserve the opportunity to get together and to confirm that decision before we start to get too far ahead in the process. I do want to thank them for the way the process has been handled. I think we're an incredibly strong team. We've gone through this process with unity and will continue to do that. I feel really fortunate to be working with such an amazing group of people who have a real commitment to the service of the people of New Zealand, a real passion for our country, one that I share. I'm incredibly optimistic about New Zealand's future. I'm really looking forward to the job. I'm feeling energised and enthusiastic and I'm looking forward to getting into the work. So I do want to thank the people of New Zealand as well for their patience during this process. I acknowledge that the resignation of a Prime Minister is a big thing and I can pledge to them that they will have my absolute dedication and devotion in the coming weeks and months as I get into the new role.
Can you win the next election?
Look, it's a big day for a boy from the hut, and look, I'm really honoured and humbled by the support that my colleagues have shown towards me. It's an enormous privilege. It's also an enormous responsibility, and the weight of that responsibility is still sinking in. But I absolutely take that very seriously, and I'm really looking forward to it.
What are your priorities and biggest challenges as you take this on?
Look, I'm going to avoid comment on positions or policy today. I'm not commenting on those things today. The process isn't yet finished. I've not yet been confirmed as the leader or as the Prime Minister, and we'll get into those things in due course.
Can you win the election?
Yes.
Can you beat Chris
Yes.
and win the election? Can you get back that support that Labour has lost in the last year or so?
Yes.
How do you intend to do that?
Look, we'll set out a bit more about that once we've actually got a result, and you'll expect to hear a lot more from us tomorrow. For today, I absolutely acknowledge that I've had a lot of support from my colleagues. I'm really humbled by that. I'm not going to get ahead of the process further by getting into conversations that we're yet to have.
Who's going to be your deputy? Who's going to be your deputy?
Look, I'm not going to get into comments on any other positions today. Again, as we always have done in the past, there are further conversations that the Labour team needs to happen.
Did you offer?
Why do you think Christopher Hipkins can beat Christopher?
Look, I've thoroughly enjoyed being a minister in Jacinda Ardern's government. I think the New Zealand public have seen the work that I have done. I've dealt with some challenging situations over the last 5.5 years, the last couple of years particularly. And I'm a human being. I'll make the odd mistake from time to time. I try and own the mistakes that I make. I don't pretend to be someone that I'm not. I've never done that in the past, and I don't intend to start doing that now.
Jacinda Ardern.
There are a couple of mistakes you haven't actually owned. Talking about one of the Northland cases and also Charlotte Bellis. Are there any regrets about how you've handled some of those situations if you say that you do own mistakes and learn from them?
Well, I think in both of those cases, I would argue in one case, actually the mistake that I'm being asked to own are mistakes made by others. Many of the claims made around the Northland case were claims made by other people and not by me. In terms of the Charlotte Bellis case, I've apologised to her, and as far as she's concerned, the matter is closed, and I respect that, and I don't intend to make further comment on that either.
Jacinda Ardern had talked about
Did you have
Jacinda
to offer-
Ardern had talked about a reshuffle that was coming. How much of that was already in place, or are you going to put your own spin on this reshuffle and assign people as you see fit?
Look, I'm not going to comment on positions today, but of course there is a reshuffle coming. There's a reshuffle that's now a necessity, and so I'll work through that with my colleagues over the coming days.
Can you talk us through the events of the last 36 hours? How did you win the position over your colleagues? Did you have to offer things to your colleagues to get the position?
No.
Who did you talk to about making this decision?
Look, I had a lot of conversations with my parliamentary colleagues. As I indicated a couple of days ago, it feels like longer actually, but a couple of days ago, I really was committed to striving to reach a consensus and to making sure that that unity and that focus on providing strong leadership for New Zealand stayed in place, and it absolutely has.
How is it that the Prime Minister and Grant Robertson have both said that they just don't have enough energy left to give the job a good tilt, but you do?
Look, those are matters for them. I've had a good summer break. I've absolutely come back energised and refreshed and ready to get into it. Look, I don't think that Grant Robertson was saying that he doesn't have energy for the job that he has now. I think what he said is that he didn't want to step up to be Prime Minister, and that's a decision for him.
Chris, what's the main difference between you and Christopher Luxon?
Look, the public can judge that.
And what about you and Jacinda Ardern?
Look, I'm a politician. I love my job, and I'm really passionate about it. It's a massive honour to have this opportunity to be Prime Minister. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do when you're not at work?
Yeah, sure. I'm a boy from the hut. I grew up in the hut. My parents came from relatively humble beginnings and worked really hard to provide a good life for my brother and I. And my commitment in politics is to make sure that we provide opportunities for all Kiwis who want to work hard to be able to work hard and get ahead and provide a better life for themselves and for their families. I like to cycle, I like to garden, I like to be outdoors where I can, I like to DIY. Maybe I don't have the best fashion sense in Parliament. I'd say that the people making those comments probably aren't standing near mirrors when they do, but I am who I am.
You know.
Yes, I think there has been an escalation in vitriol, and I want to acknowledge that some politicians have been the subject of that more than others. And our current Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has absolutely been on the receiving end of some absolutely intolerable and unacceptable behaviour. Look, I accept when I put my name forward for this job that I open myself up to a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism. I go into this job with my eyes wide open of knowing what I've stepped into.
Is there anything that you want to get off your chest? Skeletons in the closet?
Look, I'm a human being, and with all human beings, there'll be no one's perfect, I don't pretend to be.
You're known around.
What differences would you bring to the leadership role as opposed to your predecessor?
Look, I think people can judge that in time. Jacinda Ardern has been an incredible Prime Minister for New Zealand. She was the leader that we needed at the time that we needed it. I look at the challenges that Jacinda led us through, whether it was a terrorist attack, a volcanic eruption, several natural disasters, a global pandemic that disrupted our day-to-day lives more than any other event I think that any of us have experienced in our lifetimes. Jacinda provided, calm, stable, reassuring leadership, which I hope to continue to do. We're different people though, and I'm sure that people will see that.
You're known around.
Do you expect to see a change in the DPP leadership? I mean, is that position solid, or is this play to go? And also, will you keep Grant Robertson on as Finance Minister?
As I said, I'm not going to make comments on other positions today.
You're known around Parliament. Sorry.
Are you not prepared to confirm Are you too much of a political animal for this job?
No.
You're known around.
Prepared to confirm Grant Robertson as Finance Minister? He's made it pretty clear that that's the position he wants.
Look, I'll make one exception, which is to say, yes, absolutely. If Grant Robertson's indicated he's happy to continue in that role, I absolutely intend to follow through that. Now, I know that that's going to open up a whole lot of other questions for you about who's staying in other roles and all those sorts of things, and I'm not getting into that today.
You're known around Parliament as chippy.
You get the advantage of standing right beside me and having the loudest voice. So
it's a tactical decision.
Yeah.
You're known around Parliament as Chippy. Are you wanting to be known as Prime Minister Chippy?
people will call me what they'll call me.
Have you had a pitch me moment in that you've never gone for the leadership before or shown ambitions for it, and then suddenly you wake up one day and you're about to become the Prime Minister from from nowhere?
There have been a few of those moments actually in the last sort of 48 hours or so. There was a particular moment yesterday actually where I got a couple of relatively important messages just as the door to the plane was closing, and I had to then sit on the plane for the next 40 minutes before I could return any of those messages. So, and during that time, a few things sunk in for me. So,
was that people telling you, was that you getting the support that you needed
yes.
at that point?
Yes.
And you had a 40-minute wait until you could actually
Until I could reply to that, yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Who offered the support? Who offered the support?
On becoming the Prime Minister.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting couple of days.
And
Yeah.
who was those
When you
messages for?
found out no one was contesting?
Look, I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but they were significant messages in the process, yeah.
Chris, what is your message to Māori and some that might be disappointed Labour to deliver this Māori Prime Minister?
Labour has an incredible Māori team. I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud to work alongside them. They'll continue to play a really pivotal role in our government, as they have done in the last 5.5 years.
How would you describe your political style?
I like to think I'm pretty upfront and pretty straight with people. I like to think I'm pretty decisive and that I can get things done.
Are you
Do
going to
you
run a
think
clean
you've got
campaign?
some-
Yes.
Been involved in a dirty politics scandal.
And accidentally, but yes, absolutely.
What would your
Do
message
you
be
think
to
that-
Labour MPs who wanted Grant Robertson to take the job?
Grant Robertson's a great friend of mine. He's a really important member of our team. I respect that he decided of his own volition that he didn't want to put his hand up for the job. I'm happy to speak for myself. He can speak for himself.
Are you concerned that there are people in the Labour caucus, though, who wanted him to have the job?
No, absolutely not. The feedback that I have had from all of Labour's MPs over the last 24 to 48 hours has been an incredible amount of support for me to do the job.
What's your leadership style?
Like I said, I think I'm relatively upfront, relatively inclusive. People won't die wondering what I think, but I think I've got an amazing team to work with, and I intend to absolutely make the most of that.
Also
we
reflected in
understand
the
that you're-
past about the difference of the protest arrest, or your own protest arrest
Yeah.
here, and being in the House. Is this quite a weird moment, being on the steps of Parliament where that incident happened to now?
Yeah, look, it is like I said, it's a big day for a boy from the hut, and I'm really humbled and really proud to be taking this on. It is the biggest responsibility and the biggest privilege of my life, and all of the experiences that I've had through my life have contributed to this point, and some pretty amazing people as well. I want to acknowledge when you put your name forward in politics for a position like this, you do so with an enormous network of support. I've had amazing support throughout my life from my family, from the people around me, from my work colleagues, from the people who have worked with me here at Parliament. I wouldn't be here without all of the support that they have given me.
You revisit policies like capital gains tax and superannuation that were taken off the table by Ms Ardern?
As I said, I'm not getting into policy discussions today.
If you-
Head boy, and we understand you were voted most likely to be Prime Minister in your last school yearbook, were you always destined for this job?
I don't really believe in destiny in politics. I actually believe in hard work, and I've contributed as much as I possibly can in the time that I have been in public life, and I'm going to continue to do that. Having said that, I've also always resolved to be a member of my team, and I've always endeavoured to support the team in every way that I can.
If you lose the election, will you stay on as opposition leader?
Look, I don't intend to lose.
Do you have any political regrets?
Look, I believe in looking forward. Of course, if I sat down and thought through, there'll be mistakes. There'll be things that I would do differently if given a second opportunity to do them again differently. But you have to keep moving forward.
Mr. Hipkins, you notice
Yeah.
someone...
There's someone at home
Yeah.
watching this and they don't know who you are. This is the first time they've seen you. How would you describe yourself in one sentence?
A hard worker, and someone that's absolutely committed to leaving New Zealand in a better shape than I found it.
And just have you had any conversations with Jacinda Ardern over the last 24 hours, and are there any details that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, since the result was clear, of course I've had conversations with her. We'll be sitting down fairly shortly just to work through the next steps from here, because there's some logistics that we've got to get through, and in many cases we have to get through those together, because there's a relatively critical thing that she has to do before I can do the next thing that I need to do.
And any messages from the people from the hut, given that's your
Yeah.
message for the people in the hut?
Yes, I've had a lot of messages from my home constituency. I've been really humbled by that. I think that they're proud to have the first PM from the hut for many generations. I think Walter Nash was the last one. And so I've been, really just warmed by the level of support that I've had from my local
Have you had any
people.
messages from world leaders?
I've had a conversation with Anthony Albanese. It's been great to be able to talk to him. I'm looking forward to catching up with him, I hope, in person fairly soon. A few things to get through again before that happens. To be honest, there are so many messages on my phone at the moment. I'm not sure. I couldn't give you a definitive answer of who else I've heard from. But that clearly is a very important relationship for New Zealand.
How did that conversation take place?
Leading Labour through to the 2026 election, win or lose 23?
I intend to win in 2023.
How did that conversation with Anthony Albanese take place? Sorry, did he reach out?
Yeah, he gave me a call. Unfortunately, I missed his call, but I then called him back and we had a good chat.
You have a prior relationship, yeah? You're Labour brothers across the Tasman.
Oh, of course, look, I think, there is a Labour government in Australia, a Labour government in New Zealand. Of course, that means that we're going to have a good working relationship. He's had a very solid working relationship with Jacinda Ardern. I think from our conversation this morning, which was very warm, I'm absolutely sure that we're going to have a very good working relationship as well.
You're known around Parliament as someone with a healthy sense of humour and a healthy sense of being able to laugh at yourself. Will you be able to keep those two qualities in as Prime Minister?
Absolutely.
Are you New Zealand's first ginger Prime Minister?
I think it was about time we had a ginger at the top, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you could do the research.
How would you so appreciate ginger?
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not getting into policy or positions today. In terms of the process, Jacinda and I will work through that over the next sort of 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll set out a timetable. I accept people want to know when all those things are going to happen. We'll get the details of that lockdown and we'll let you know once we've done that.
How would you describe the shape of New Zealand right now?
I think New Zealand is an amazing country. We have so many opportunities here in New Zealand. There is nowhere else in the world that I would want to live and that I would want to be raising my kids. I acknowledge that at the moment we're going through some economic turbulence and we're going to have to navigate our way through that. I believe passionately that we can come out the other side of that in better shape than we went into it. I'm really optimistic about our future. And I'm really committed to leading New Zealand through that in a way that is strong, stable and unifying.
Is there going to be room? Is there going to be room? Vitriol and disquiet that was directed towards Jacinda Ardern was surrounding the COVID-19 restrictions. You were intrinsically linked with every single one of those decisions. Can you separate yourself from that?
Yes, I can, but I also think that much of that came from a very small minority, and that actually the vast bulk of New Zealanders are very proud of what we achieved as a country around COVID-19. We had one of the lowest rates of death from COVID-19 in the world. We actually had some of the fewest days of lockdown compared to other countries that we would compare ourselves to. That's a track record that I think New Zealanders as a whole should be proud of. And so, yes, there's a vocal minority who would like to rewrite history. But actually, I think New Zealand as a country should be proud of what we achieved through COVID.
Is it a vocal minority, though? Because you're losing support in the polls. You locked down our biggest city for 3 months. People were angry with you.
Look, I acknowledge that the lockdown in Auckland was really hard. There are also a whole lot of other things at play now. We're dealing with the economic aftermath of COVID-19, and much of that is global. But we have a responsibility to lead New Zealand through that, and we absolutely will do that. And I'll talk more about that, but I'm not going to talk more about that today.
Is there a room for a woman MP in the leadership team, either on the ministerial side or the party side?
Look, I don't want to speculate on positions. I indicated I'm not going to talk about that today. I do want to acknowledge that, for the first time in New Zealand's history, we have a gender-balanced parliament. Women are going to occupy senior roles in our parliament. That is good. That is fantastic. We should be proud of that as a country.
Been needed in the leadership.
I'm not getting into that today.
What do you think Kiwis know you best for?
Well, there's one thing, look, I think hopefully New Zealanders know me as someone who is upfront, doesn't mind admitting when they've made a mistake, and can laugh at themselves.
Chris, given you've done a press conference from the bush before, and we're outside again, can we expect all of your future press conferences to be outside?
Well, on a beautiful Wellington day, as we've had so many beautiful Wellington days this summer, maybe we could do a few more of these outside.
And just lastly, what is one thing you would like to change in New Zealand?
Look, I don't want to get into policy issues today, but look, I am here to make sure that New Zealanders who go out there and work hard to make a better life for themselves and for their families can succeed in doing so, that their hard work can make sure that they have the opportunities to get ahead. That's what Labour has always stood for, and it's absolutely why I'm in politics. Thanks, everybody.